Sup dudes, if you're looking for every find and raid quest item for therapists in one quick video, then you come to the right place. Let's get into it. So the first two items I'm actually going to bundle together, and that is the Selewa and the Morphine. We are on reserve, and we are on the western front entrance of the White Bishop building. Now once we enter the building, and as we enter the next room, we can see a Selewa here, and this goes for most of the rooms in this building. Whenever you see a pile of meds on the ground, it's always a good idea to make sure you stick your nose in there to see if you can see that loot dot to pop up, because oftentimes you'll have morphines or Selewas, stuff like that, maybe even injectors for samples that are lying on the ground there, and you can't really see them that well, but that's when the loot dot comes into play. So we're gonna walk through each of these rooms, and we're gonna check on top of all the medical tables, all of the ground piles of meds on the metal shelves and the metal tables as well. You can find some stuff, and that's what we're mostly gonna be focusing on. The next building we're gonna check, because we're on reserve anyway, is Black Pawn. Now, if you're looking at Black Pawn from the helicopter side of the building, it's the left-hand most staircase. You run up to the second floor, and you run down the end of the hallway, and you get to the medical bed area. Once you're up at the medical bed area, what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to search on top of all of the beds. You have a med bag spawn in case you ever get some more morphines and stuff like that. Another great place to find Selewas and morphines is on customs and crack house. So as we just walk in the building here, we should notice immediately on our left we have a med box, as well as med spawns on the floor just to our right, as well as on that little metal shelf thing, I don't know what you call that, where you can spawn a bunch of Selewas, grizzlies, that stuff can spawn there. As well as we head up to the second floor, what we're going to keep our eye on is on the smaller metal shelves closer to the windows. You can find things like your morphine injectors and stuff like that. One of the spawns for one of those would be where that golden star is, which I love looting all the time. A lot of people do not notice the injectors on the tables, but also we have the Selewa spawns on this back shelf here where the catwalk was. And now we're done with this room. We're gonna head over down the hallway a little bit to our left first door, and we are going to open this room, which is full of meds. We got meds on that wooden box there, and we can have meds spawning anywhere on these metal shelves, so keep an eye out for those. So the next location we're going to visit is Skeletal, which is not too far away from Crack House on Customs. We're going to head in from Crack House side, and we're going to take a left into this small room. Now on the bed you can find some med spawn. I'm pretty sure I found some Selewas on there. You also have the medical container, as well as the med spawns that are right beside it on the bed. Give the medical container a quick search, and then right behind us to our right there's another medical supply crate that we will go and open, and luckily we got two Selewas here and a syringe, so that's pretty big. I will also say that if you are looking for Selewas, that might also be a good idea to look for the crafting ingredients of the med station 1 in your hideout, because in your med station 1 you can craft Selewas as well, and a syringe is one of the requirements or one of the items you need to find in order to build that, so keep that in mind for all these lead boxes or med boxes, sorry. Now once we're upstairs, I'm gonna stop being a goofball and find the actual medical supply crate and give that a quick search, and then once I'm done searching through this, you can find all your meds here, Selewas, syringes, anything you need to get that Selewa's Find and Rest crate going. I'm gonna mess around for a few seconds because I have no idea where I'm going for some reason, and then I'm gonna search the medical box just to the bottom of those orange bricks across the bridge. The last place I would say you should probably check for Selewas, just because of the fact of the giving tree. And if you don't know what the giving tree is, you can get any item in the game, including the rarest keys, like the red key card, under the giving tree. So I always come here, especially because you can spawn at this gas station, so you might as well check this medical bag and the giving tree as well. Now if you're anything like me, you hit your private clinic quest and you still haven't found your Ophthalmoscope. So now we head on to woods, and the thing about this run is you can still get your Selewas and morphines from this run. So we're gonna check the USET camp north, As you can see here, there's a Selewa on the surgery table, but ophthalmoscopes can spawn anywhere on this table or right here on the ground where I'm looking. Another great place to find your ophthalmoscopes as well as your Selewas and morphine injectors is at the EMERCOM Medical Camp, located on the bottom right hand side of the map. Now, the medical camp has 2 ophthalmoscope spawns that I know of, possibly 3, and one of them is in the gray container that I marked in the video, and the other 2 are around the shipping containers with the metal shelves where you can find 2 different medical bags. So make sure you check all of those shelves, because an ophthalmoscope could be sitting there waiting, where you might find like an AFAC or an IFAC. Okay, now with most of the medical items out of the way, let's move on to getting our spark plugs and gas analyzers. All right, so the first area we're gonna check for gas analyzers and spark plugs is the little computer room on the left side of IDEA. The first place you wanna be looking is at the 3 desks at the front, and on the desk immediately next to those 3 at the very front, as well as the back of the computer store, which could have gas analyzers or spark plugs on either the left or right shelf. Now there's nothing on the other side, it's just the 2 you immediately see when you go through the door, but sometimes they can be hidden through boxes, so you might have to look for them. Now as we exit the front of the computer store, don't forget to check this spot I call Dig Box, because there's a tech spawn that's right here and a lot of people pass up on this one. Okay, now here we are at the hardware store right outside of EMERCOM. I don't know what the name of the store is called, I just call it the hardware store outside of EMERCOM. But essentially what you want to be doing in this building is looking at all of these front tables. All these front tables can spawn your gas analyzers and spark plugs, as well as these metal shelves that are right next to it. And if you feel like it, there's also a toolbox that can spawn both of those things in the middle of the room. Okay, and now we are outside of German, which is right across Mantis, and this is also a fun little store that not a lot of people hit. What you want to do as soon as you walk in is you want to look at that first pedestal on the top left of the room. Text can spawn on that. You want to be watching all of the shelving on the left hand side of the room, and then you want to watch all the shelving on the right hand side of the room. There is a spawn next to the box that has fallen over next to the PCB I found, but there was nothing there this time. Next up, we have one of my favorite stores, Rasmussen. The key to looting this room properly is to make sure you stick your head into every box, because a lot of items can spawn within the boxes on the shelves or in a dark corner, so you make sure you stick that loot indicator in every inch of this room you can. But there is so full of tech, but you also gotta be wary. There's a lot of PvP around this area, so when you're looting this room, make sure you're on your A game. Also, don't forget to check behind the front desk closer to the hole ramp. There's always some good loot that spawns behind there, and I find a lot of stuff behind that desk. 5 minutes left in raid when no one has looked. When it comes to Tex-Ho, the layout is fairly simple. All you really need to worry about is to not forget to look on the loot on the speaker next to the first pink shelf I walk towards, and check every shelf thoroughly. Sometimes you have to get close to see an item and make sure you don't pass on the items on the side counters attached to the wall, because a lot of times I find a bunch of items that just sit there because it's simply too dark and no one looked. And now we're heading into TechLight, probably my favorite store in the game, but man, is this store packed with loot. Most importantly, gas analyzers and spark plugs. So what you're going to want to do when you loot this room is you want to make sure that you're always keeping your loot indicator shoved into every shelf. You want to make sure you're looking up, because sometimes things can spawn on the second highest shelf, which is higher than you can actually see over. So you always kind of want to push up against the shelves, check for that loot dot, make sure you're not missing any loot, and there's no doubt you'll find gas analyzers here, you'll find spark plugs here, and you'll get the added benefits of, like me in this test video, finding 4 Tetrises somehow, as well as the much more important item, gas analyzers we need for our therapist quest. Just be ready for PvP. That's all I can say. You got this. And now we are at the front of Ollie. A good place to check for gas analyzers is along the cash register line along these metal shelves. Here you can find a bunch. This is where I used to find mine. when I was looking for mine doing my original quest. The only thing I would say is you might have to worry about Killa, the interchange scav boss, because he will destroy you, especially if you're new. Chances are he's not here, but he might be in the store. Good luck. And finally, if you're still having trouble looking for those spark plugs, here's a nice little interchange route by the power plant. Spark plugs can spawn in all of these toolboxes, and I think there's about 6 of them here, so chances are you're probably gonna find one. And this small route will give you a long-deserved rest of my voice. All right, now with most of the medical and technical items out of the way, let's go find food because I'm hungry, and car parts because car parts. Luckily though, these two are pretty easy. Next, we are heading to the back left corner of Goshan. Now, the route is fairly straightforward. The only thing you'll have to note is if you have a low LOD in your settings, some of the food might not appear on the shelves until you get close enough to the shelves. So all you have to do is follow the route and you'll find so much Tushonka and other food that is used for many other barters and crafts like that, like Coke and energy drinks and things for the food case. So I'm just gonna shut up, and here is the route. And finally, we have our car batteries. Now, our car batteries can be found in these back right 2 aisles of Goshan, just to the right of the fire. So when you're looking for them, you want to be looking on the boxes. Sometimes they can spawn on the boxes, and sometimes they just spawn right on the shelf. If your LOD is low, make sure you do get a little close, so you make sure that you're definitely seeing the car batteries when they spawn in, and you'll find a bunch here easily. So the last place you can look for car batteries is in the back left of Ollie, basically when you're going out to the Emercom extraction. If you look in these green little white baskets on the outsides of all these shelves, I've had many car batteries spawn in there, and I've passed many of them along the way, either finishing up my scav runs or just running out as a PMC, simply because I'm done that quest and car batteries weigh a shit ton. All right, ladies and babies, last but certainly not least, we have the Ledx. Now, the Ledx you can craft in your hideout. However, and by the way, that's what I did for the record, I will still show you my favorite spots to grab the Ledx in raid, because I do play Shoreline every now and again, and I love getting the gold chain GPUs, O-scopes, and Ledx's when I can. So let's jump into that. The first room I have on my list is West 216, and you can find the Ledx directly right at the door on the ammo boxes. There's 2 places you can spawn, closer to you or a little up higher on those ammo boxes there, but you won't miss it if it's there. And I kind of like the room because, you know, occasionally you can get sugar and stuff like that. That's cool. The next room I have on my list is West 205, and the Ledx can spawn on the nightstand next to the bed or just to the right of the toolbox. So make sure you're always checking around the bed, around the nightstand, and on the desks, because sometimes it can clip in and it's hard to see. Next up, we have West Wing room 301, and you can find the Ledx immediately in front of you on the white barrels, canisters, whatever you want to call them, just to the left of where I found the motor. And some of you might not know this, but you can actually go into the room over across the balcony, and there will possibly be a Ledx on the desk near the bed or near the bed in general. So make sure you check the bed and the desk as well in the adjoining room. Another fun room you can find a Ledx in, and this is the first East Wing room, East 209. It's open to everybody. All you have to do is open the door and a Ledx can spawn in the little drawer desk thing. I'm great with words. Next, we have one of my favorite rooms because somehow I managed to get so lucky here, and that is East Wing 219. Again, a fully open room, already open, as you can see, and right where the Ophthalmoscope is where Ledx can be. And for whatever reason, they decided to give me a graphics card too. Thank you, Nikita. I appreciate it. Okay, now East 226 brings me back. I used to run this room way before Reserve was released, way before Customs expansion, way before Lighthouse, obviously. East 226 was a room I hit so much way back in the day that I just love going to it just for the nostalgia factor. But the Ledx can be found as soon as you open the door, right behind the door in the dresser. So you can even open the door, close the door, loot the items there. And it can also spawn on the nightstand or on the floor in the corner next to the bed. So be on the lookout for that hidden Ledx, because he might be there. Last but not least, we have East 306, another nostalgia room, simply because of farming this room for the DVL to do the gunsmith quest back in the day when you couldn't find this thing, you couldn't buy this thing, you were broke, didn't know how to play the game. This is what I went for the DVL for. I love this room. I like looting the computers in this room. I like trying to find graphics cards here. But I also heard there's a Ledx here. I don't remember ever getting one here myself, but I believe the spawn is on the table, or sorry, on the chair in front of the computers where the desks are on the right-hand side of the room. Hey, don't take my word for it though, you know, don't quote me on it. All right, guys, now just before we go, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Emercom medical room, and of course you'll need the key to open the room, and you'll need the power on interchange to be turned on at the power plant. But this room could also spawn Ledx's, and little do people know, you can also get Ledx's on the shelves outside of the room. I've gotten 2 Ledx's on my scav just looking on the shelves outside of the room. So not only if it's locked or if the power isn't on, don't fret, you can still possibly get a Ledx if you just check the inside the white cupboards outside of the room. Of course, if you go in the room, look all around the room on all the various metal shelving. For some reason, I forgot to open the door because I'm silly, literally. But Ledx's can spawn in. There's a few spawns in there, 2 or 3. But there you have it, folks. Now you know how to find every therapist find in raid item in raid. Nice and easy, didn't take too long. The only ones I didn't mention that are currently untracked at the bottom, and there's a reason for it. The Huntsman quest is not worth doing. Kill Sanitar for Jaeger and don't hand over key cards. It is totally not worth it. As far as the defibrillators and the med pals go, the med pals you can find throughout any of the Selewa Morphine medical runs that I went through earlier, or they can be very easily crafted in the hideout, as well as the defibrillators. The defibrillators you can find in Ultramed, or basically where any of the shoreline Ledx spawns are, but same thing, you can craft them pretty easy. Don't really need to find them in raid. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Certainly the biggest one I've ever done. And let me know what you thought. Let me know if I helped you find an item you couldn't find before, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, not to do a shameless plug or anything, but I Twitch stream and I'm working on mechanic for the next quest guide video. See you soon.